Welcome to Busy Working. Today we've got a person here that everyone knows. Hein, thank you for joining. We're very privileged to have you here on our show. We know you very busy. To get a hold of you is quite difficult. So thank you for your time that you've set out for today. And we're obviously going to chat about everything solar. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Willie. It's actually quite nice to actually speak to the customers out there every now and again.
Yeah.
So Linky and Anik booked out a slot in my diary for today. So let's see where it goes.
Okay, great. So we've got a few questions, and obviously we're going to focus on solar and what it can do for you. So my first question is, how can solar power contribute to cost savings for homeowners and business, especially over time?
Well, Willie, so we live in a country with an abundance of sun. I think based on a report that I read recently is that the average sun yield in South Africa across the entire country, even in the rainy and windy areas, is more than what the global average is. So we actually very much blessed with the amount of sun that we have here in South Africa. And obviously, we currently sitting in a situation where we troubled by load shedding and things like that. But installing a backup system doesn't really save you money. It's just saving you hassles of not having electricity. But when you are installing a backup system, you should always make sure that it's solar ready. So the solar panels is actually where the cost saving starts coming in. And it's really at the moment the lowest portion of the cost of any installation. So, in South Africa, we get an average of 4.8 sun hours a day, if you would call that. So, which means that every 1 kilowatt of solar panels will give on an average 4.8 kilowatt hours worth of electricity per day that is generated. Yeah. So, solar panels also, with the increase in technology and things that are getting better, is currently at a situation where the efficiencies are increasing and the warranties are actually increasing. When we were looking at 25-year output warranties, we're now at 30-year output warranties with N-type. And if you invest the money now in solar panels, what actually happens is you end up paying for your investments in a very short period of time. So my suggestion is always don't just look at it as a solution for load shedding. Look at it as a solution for bringing your energy costs down, because solar is the future. Renewable energy is the future for globally. There's a big push around the world to be green, but financially it's one of the best mechanisms at the moment where you can get a good ROI.
So on that, and we'll speak about the ROI just now, with it being an option where you can be energy independent. So how does adopting solar power enhance energy independence? So obviously we're in a situation, we've got a lot of load shedding that's going to be a problem for a long time. So how does that help?
Well, so energy independence is just one portion of the whole thing. I think with the way technology is evolving and you're looking at decentralization, we come out of an era where there was centralized power plants, centralized everything. If you look at where the world is moving, it's a lot more decentralized, a lot more enabled to not get electricity only from one source. So if you look at European countries, there's many utility providers, not just one like we have, where they are competing with each other. So there's no let's say one guy that has the monopoly. And what we are finding is that they are also encouraging people to do solar so that they can contribute towards the production of electricity. So, with variable tariffs that they have overseas, you get times of day where electricity actually goes negative. Where when you're feeding in, you are actually paying for electricity, and when you're using it, you are getting a reduction on you, because that is, when there's high yields and there's a lot of electricity available, they'll actually pay you to use it. So from an independence point, where you're talking about is in South Africa, we unfortunately have a situation where we have to start looking at independence. But it's not just about being sick and tired of load shedding. It's about making sure that you are now putting in an investment, because the way that the world works is you always have the US, Europe, and Australia leading the charge, and then slowly but surely the developing countries start catching on. So, I mean, there's been talks about it, and I believe it's going to be a reality soon, but we don't know how because our government moves quite slowly. But where they're going to split it up between transmission, distribution, and generation. So, in other words, you will now be somebody that is a generator, if you would call it that. So you'll be able to generate electricity for your own home, and excess to be stored in batteries, but you'll also be allowed to feed into the grid. I mean, City of Cape Town has got that, and where you can now be independent but also contribute to the network and the stability, to get it to start getting rid of this load shedding situation. Because the reason why we have load shedding is there's not enough supply and there's too much demand. And I believe that because the tickers are moving so slowly at government, South Africa is in a brilliant situation where the private sector can actually adopt this. And until regulation is in place where you can start selling your electricity, you can at least become energy independent right now, where you are responsible for your own energy. But in the future, it opens up a whole new play where you are able to become an energy trader, where the centralized system that was generating electricity that everybody was buying from now becomes decentralized, where you have thousands and thousands of people that are actually generating electricity and selling the electricity back to the grid or to your neighbor or wherever it is. And it's definitely that's how solar works. So it's a brilliant way. I'm always fascinated by the way that electricity gets distributed, and ultimately I believe that generation is going to be such a small part from our state-owned entities, where transmission and distribution is going to be the key thing, and so that they can invest the money into infrastructure rather than building large big power plants, because renewables is just so much cheaper than building old outdated coal-fired plants.
Better way. It's a greener way. And also, how does a solar installation or solar system impact the value of your property?
Well, Willie, so solar gets installed on the roof. So it's a fixed part of of your house. Although you can remove it, but we deal with a lot of property developers that are now offering this on brand new installations where they're offering solar or backup solutions. And you can, when you speak to agents that are selling property, you can immediately they tell you that it's a big selling point for them if a property has solar over one that doesn't. So if you are looking at two townhouses in a complex of the same size, same design, which one would you buy? The one that's free from where it's got free electricity and free from load shedding, or the one where you still have to make the expense? So, ultimately, if you spend the money, it does increase the value of your property. And that is the reason why all the banks started getting involved in financing solar solutions, because they know that the value is there. If you do a 200,000 Rand installation at your home, it literally increases the value of your home by 200,000 Rand, because there's energy saving, there's the convenience of battery backup and all of that is there. And it's something that the banks are really putting a lot of money behind now, and that they are super, super excited about, because for them it's an asset, and asset finance is what their game is.
Exactly. So, and one thing that you've actually spoken to me a while back regarding to it is what do we sell? It's obviously PV modules, batteries, inverter, and the balance of system, but it's actually an investment, a solar system.
Yeah.
So what a lot of people talk about ROI, which is return on investment. So how quick can that happen? Or does it depend on the different system that you use, or what?
Veli, there's a big, you can get ROI super quick, and I believe that ROI is not the right normal calculator that needs to be used, because if you spend a little bit of money on a cheap inverter and a cheap battery and a cheap solar panels, your efficiencies aren't going to be that great, but your ROI is going to be really quickly. I mean, we've seen people that are getting ROIs in, 3 years.
No.
On grid-tied systems, some of them are actually getting ROI in 2.5 years now. But the key thing is I like to measure it in levelized cost of energy. So the levelized cost of energy means that, what your system will produce over its lifespan, and you take the initial cost that you pay for it now and divide that into the energy that it will produce over the warranty period or the lifespan of the system. So although you'll get a quicker ROI on a cheaper system, it might not last that long. No. So then you're going to have to spend money. So yes, you can spend money and get your payback in 3 years, and then your 4th year saving, your 5th year a little bit of saving, and then replace it again, and then repeat and repeat and repeat. Or you can come initially, put something in with, like 12-year and 25-year warranties, and that is properly installed and that is well designed, because that is very important.
No.
And then you don't have to worry about that for the next 20 years. And if you do that, then you're paying more upfront, yes, but you are literally buying your electricity over the period for cents. So if you would spend 200,000 Rand, whatever that system will produce over the 20-year lifespan, if you take those kilowatt hours and divide the 200,000 into that, you'll see that you're basically prepaying all of your electricity for the next 20 years at a rate that is minuscule compared to a tenth of what the current energy rate is. So levelized cost of energy is the best calculator to use. But yes, ROI is also there. So we are typically happy with a 5 to 7 year ROI on our high quality system. And if you take 5 to 7 years in as a number or as a percentage, if you take 5 years, that's 20% per year. You cannot invest money for 20% year returns at a bank. I mean, if you look at where interest rates are sitting right now, so even if you borrow money, you are actually saving money.
Yeah.
Even if at a 7 year, I mean, if you do the division, it's well above where the earnings are that you can actually get, unless you're an investor in like a trader or something like that. Obviously, then yes, you can get good returns. But I'm talking about if you don't have to do anything, because once you install the solar system, you don't have to do anything. You cannot go and do a fixed investment at the moment at interest rates above 10%, in my opinion.
How important is the warranty period? Because there's a big price war going about where installers quote an end user and they say no, they can get it cheaper from another guy.
Yeah, Willie, unfortunately, we do have a lot of problems that are surfacing with the boom that has happened. There's a lot of cheap products that are being dumped in South Africa. Obviously, oversupply in China with the demand that we have here. Everybody that could get some money somewhere suddenly became an importer, and they were dumping products here. But you see, the key thing is if you're talking about warranty period. If something has a 10-year or 20-year warranty period, that means that product, if there's a defect, will be replaced within that period or repaired, or whichever way the warranty terms and conditions are. But what happens to the old product? There's a lot of these products that are coming into the country, and where do you dispose of them? There's recycling that needs to happen. And when you recycle PV modules, or you recycle, like a lot of the PV modules are able to be recycled, or lithium batteries. What happens is the government had a EPR or EIR, which is extended producer responsibility or extended imports responsibility, which means that everybody down the chain that is bringing a product to South Africa is responsible for having that product recycled at the end of the period. So, as a supplier that is, wants to conform to all legislations, unfortunately, we have to pay these levies or take the responsibility of that. So you have to tie up with a recycling agency and all that to be able to dispose of the product once it needs to be disposed of. And a lot of these guys that have imported now, they don't even, don't know if it's from ignorance or what it is, but they're not even looking at that. So, yes, you can get it cheaper. I can tell you that about 90% of the products that we have, I can buy cheaper. The problem is it's not the same quality. So, we're very much involved with the supply chain team and obviously looking for the best deals out there. But, we make sure that products that we have are safe, number one. They conform to all the standards. They conform and we don't cut corners when it comes to NRCS and LOAs and things like that, where a lot of these guys are doing that. And yes, that is why it's cheaper. The big problem is if the installer sells you a cheaper product and that product, needs to be recycled eventually, the installer is also responsible, or you are responsible. Where if you are dealing with somebody that bought it from Herholdt's, you can be rest assured that responsibility has been taken care of.
That's great. So, with regards to maintenance requirements for solar panels, so obviously there's things like dust and hail that can damage a panel. We'll obviously be able to claim that from warranty on your insurance. But let's focus on the maintenance of solar panels. So I've seen a lot of guys cleaning solar panels. Does that have something to do with the efficiency, just for our end users' sake?
Yes, Willie. So, if you don't have any rain for an extended period of time, we would suggest that you go clean the panels. The efficiency, a clean panel obviously produces a lot more than what a dirty panel does.
No.
The main thing about the maintenance portion of it is if you have, let's say, soiling from bird droppings or something like that on a specific point on a panel. So if you were to take a solar panel and put it out in the sun and you put a piece of paper over a certain spot on the panel, so in other words, the sun does not hit that specific spot.
No.
That spot actually gets hot compared to the rest of the panel.
Okay.
It's what we call, hotspot generation. So what happens is the cells are actually charging that specific spot because it's not producing anything. So that becomes hot. So if you have a small drop on a cell and it's there for extended period of time, you can actually, that point on the cell can burn.
Oh.
Or not catch fire, but it burns in its essence that cell loses its efficiency.
Oh, okay.
So it's very important that you regularly clean your panels if you haven't had any rain. The panels, if you do the installation correctly with right angles, they basically self-cleaning if you've had a rain that comes along. But if you see your panels and they are visible, we've got a team that goes on, and because we've got a lot of pigeons sitting on them, and we've got a team that goes and cleans them at least once a month. And then from an inverter perspective, it depends on what the inverter manufacturers say, but I would recommend that an installer at least once every 6 months comes around and just basically cleans out the filters, because obviously these inverters have fans that are sucking in dust. So, just clean out the filters, clean out the fans, blow it out, make sure that there's not a lot of dust that's compounding on a certain spot or things like that. Just don't pressure wash it.
Don't pressure wash it, yeah. Otherwise the warranty's gone. So we've got a lot of technology that's improving, like you've mentioned. So pricing wise, we've all seen the pricing has gone down a lot. And a lot of people are wondering, should I invest in solar now or shouldn't I? And what's the best time?
Willie, so I was on an interview on Via, and when we had that interview, I said that it is basically the best time now, and it still is, because we've seen it come down. We've seen panel prices hit the bottom, and it's sitting there, and there's like a $0.005 dollar cent up creep at the moment. But we believe that this is like the very low point, and one of the reasons for that is oversupply. So obviously these factories need to run, so they're cutting the pricing completely to be able to do it. So I would suggest that this is now one of the best times to invest, because right now you are sitting in a oversupply situation, and that's always the best time to buy. You know, I've always been comparing it. We've seen the pricing take a dive since we were in this industry since 2016, and this is my third time where I've seen a dive, and then it recovers eventually, and then it takes a dive, and then it recovers. And this dive, you know, I always joke and I compare it to people that are investing in cryptocurrency. When Bitcoin is at its lowest price, nobody wants to touch it, but when it goes up, everybody wants to buy it. You know, and that's the key thing is. Yes, a lot of people did buy solar when the prices were higher. Yes, they were lower than what the previous years were. And because the technology keeps on changing, you know, you get better for the same price, or you get the same price for cheaper. So yes, it is happening, but you eventually reach that point where, you know, the price per watt is the same, but the sizes of the panels, or the physical size stays the same, but the power output increases. So you are able to actually, you know, buy very good quality right now at super low prices, and we believe that, you know, once this oversupply flushes out, the pricing will go up again, and then it will be like that for quite some time, and then it'll eventually also dive down when there's oversupply, because solar panels is like a commodity, like gold and silver and copper and all of these. So, you know, when there's too much in the market, the price comes down. When there's not enough in the market, the price goes up. Last year, for the first 3 months, we couldn't find any stock. And, you know, we were paying like 6 Rand a watt for panels at that stage. I mean, now panels are like 2 Rand 60.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really a up and down situation, and that's how it will be with commodities always. Yes, battery pricing is coming down. I don't believe it'll take the same kind of dive as what panels did. I believe that the technology will get better. Okay. So what will happen is new tech will come in, and that'll be at a higher price. And people that want to be first adopters, it's, you know, it's great. But I always say, don't be the first one in the door on new technology. Use whatever is available when the prices have come down. So, yeah, inverters, batteries, panels are really at a good, stable rate now. They've been stable for the last 3 months, where there has not been, you know, a lot of movement. So for those that weren't ready in January, you know, yeah, you can see that it is there, and you can actually make the move now, because it's not going to be, you are not going to have 50% cheaper next month.
Exactly.
With panels, we had that situation that came in, you know, literally overnight it came down crazy, but there's no more decrease in that. And I think it's because the manufacturers are at a place where they can't go any lower. So this is just what it is.
So on that point of the panel sizes getting bigger, a lot of, especially end users that don't tend to have the knowledge about electrical knowledge or solar knowledge, so all of them try to put a massive panel on a small inverter, obviously because they're thinking, it's going to be less panels that I need to buy. There's a big
the
misconception.
South African stigma, bigger is better.
So can you just elaborate on that? Because there's obviously amps and volts that play a role.
Everybody always wants the biggest, you know. That's unfortunately how it is. The thing is the big modules, and we're talking about 580, 630 power classes. They're actually designed for utility scale projects. You know, large CNI and utility scale, where you've got big inverters that can handle high currents. Okay. So the currents on these panels are a lot higher. For the residential market, you know, the 460 to, you know, and yes, some people are installing 550 size modules on resi roofs, and it is able to do that because the technology on the residential inverters will also increase a bit. But if you look at the size, it's not about the size or the wattage, it's about the efficiency. So efficiency is 22% right now. So it doesn't matter if you buy a 460 watt or a 550 or a 630, if the efficiency is the same, it's just bigger square meterage. So,
Exactly.
that's the thing. But the problem is the current increases. So if you've got an inverter that can only handle, let's say, for argument's sake, 18 amps, but you are installing a panel that's ISC rated at 22 amps, and it's, let's say, call a 580 watt module. What will happen is that inverter will only draw, because the current gets drawn, will only draw 18 amps from that panel, which means that the panel will only produce, as a matter of speaking, produce 500 watts or 480 watts at a specific irradiance level. So you are, and this is the key thing which people need to understand, is you are paying a rand per watt price. So you're paying for 580, but your inverter is only able to use 480, which is why you should always have an installer design it optimally, that you have your maximum current below the MPPT maximum current, so that the MPPT is actually able to draw maximum that's available from that. Then obviously the voltages, when you string them, just make sure you don't go over the voltages, because the voltages makes the smoke come out.
Okay, so how does choosing solar align with a commitment to sustainable living? You've spoken about Herholdt's being a sustainable supplier, but how does that align with a commitment to sustainable living?
Well, the first thing is, you are, number one, being more energy independent. Number two is you are reducing your reliance on Stone Age energy providers. That's coming from coal and dirty sources. Then once you start delving into the world of automation, and I mean, we've got a brilliant product from Solar Edge, but if you look at what they've done is where they are able to put the excess energy into the battery, and then if you still have excess energy when you're not at home, start heating up your hot water controllers, turn on your pool pump, so that power comes directly from the sun, that your reliance on grid energy becomes like nothing. We've got various kinds of products available in our portfolio, and with some smart switches and things like that, you are able to turn on and off loads at certain times of the day. But I don't think any of them are as well advanced as where you can actually take just the excess and send it somewhere.
Yeah.
Because putting excess energy into your geyser is like using your geyser as a battery. Because you put it in now, yes, it's a very inefficient battery because it loses the temperature. But later on, you don't have to take the power out of your battery that you store to heat up the water.
It's smart.
So it's about that. That's what my way is, or view is on a sustainable future, is where you are able to heat and cool your home, use your energy directly from the sun. Use excess energy, store it in a battery, or put it into hot water. Then use that energy that you stored at night time, that you don't become reliant on the grid, and that you become more energy efficient, which then obviously means that less coal will be burned. It's obviously a big drive globally, but the answer is there. Why wouldn't you want free energy from the sun? I mean, enough energy from the sun hits the earth in one day to, I think, power the world's energy needs for a few years.
That's amazing.
I mean, and every day it's there. So that is what was provided to us.
So now that I think most of our viewers have got more knowledge with this session to make a more informed decision about going solar, the last question I've got for you is, how long, and this is probably very personal into Herholdt's now, but how long, or what's your opinion about how long these low prices will stay like this? Obviously, you said there's a slight uptrend going, but for the end users especially, they're obviously very scared to make a decision to put money down or take out a loan. But you've covered that now with it's actually a great decision because you're in a positive with rate of return. So what's your opinion regarding that?
Well, Vili, it's nobody has a crystal ball. So you know it's not something that's very easily predictable. If we talk dollar terms, we're seeing that it's stable. The biggest effect it has for users in South Africa is, you know, we wake up one day, we have no load shedding. The next day we have stage 4 load shedding. It changes like on a whim. And let me tell you, is a combination of stage 2 in the morning and stage 4 in the afternoon is not really only stage 4. If you look at the amount of times that your power is off, it's more like stage 6 or 7. So, you know, I do believe that there's a little bit of a backdoor move that they are pulling with that, you know, combination of the two. So it's 2, then moving to 4, then back to 2. But the thing is in 2, the times are different than what they are at 4. So it's not like, oh, okay, so we're going from 4 to 2. You've been off twice already today. We're not going to put you off. It's like new time that you are off now.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing is that's a big thing is how much do you want to continue like this? The next thing is, obviously, every time the power goes out, it hurts our currency. And in dollar terms, like I said, it is stable. We've got an election year coming up this year. You know, nobody knows what's going to happen in the elections. And, you know, I'm not here to talk politics, but, you know, there's many ways it can play out. It can go good, it can go bad. And if it goes bad, obviously the rand takes a bath. And if the rand takes a bath, that means that the prices go up.
Yeah.
So even though you see price reductions coming through, when we started in the solar industry, I think it was 12 rand to $1. We're sitting at roughly about 19 now.
Yeah.
Where the prices of products have come down drastically in dollar terms, but they haven't really reflected that in rand terms. So I believe that, you know, sub 19 is a good place where we are right now for what's going on in the country. But we don't know what's going to happen. So you might, in a few months' time, see that the prices have gone up like crazy. We don't know. It's the election year in the US. So the US dollar might take a bath or also strengthen. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world with all the wars and everything going around. And I believe that that's also something that people should take into consideration. But right now, I think it's a pretty good time. You know, if you've got spare money laying around or you're able to, you know, leverage some debt to get up. I mean, if you're paying 2,000 Rand a month for electricity, why don't you just pay 2,000 Rand a month to have a solar system?
Exactly.
I mean,
it's an investment.
It's an investment.
Well, Hein, thank you so much for your time. That's all that we have time for now, but a lot of insight from Heine Herholdt. We thank you for watching. Please subscribe down below, and we'll see you next time.